The world is full of places that feel like they were left behind on purpose. Places where time just stopped and something eerie took its place. These aren't just empty buildings and crumbling towns, they're leftovers of lost civilizations, scenes of tragedies, and home to mysteries that refuse to die. Some are asylums with unsettling pasts, others are whole towns swallowed by nature, but all of them have one thing in common. You wouldn't want to be stuck there after dark. So, let's take a trip through 15 of the creepiest abandoned places still pulsing with mystery. Just a heads up, some of these spots have a way of making you feel like you're not alone. Let's kick off things with number 15, Abandoned Mill, Italy. In the heart of Sorrento, an old stone mill sits forgotten, swallowed by time and nature. Built in the 13th century, it was once the beating heart of the local wheat industry, grinding grain for the people who lived along the cliffs. For centuries, the mill thrived, until progress left it behind. When new city developments cut it off from the sea in 1866, the rising humidity made it unlivable. Workers walked away, leaving the structure to fend for itself. What's left today is something out of a dream. Thick vines creeping up the stone, roots prying apart the walls, nature slowly reclaiming every inch. Sunlight barely touches its damp interior, and the silence here is heavy like the mill is still holding on to memories of the past. Even in ruin, it refuses to disappear, standing as proof that no matter how advanced civilization becomes, nature always has the final say. Number 14. Underwater city of Xicheng, China. Most lost cities fade away, but this one is still standing, just at the bottom of a lake. Xicheng, or Lion City, was once a bustling hub in Zhejiang province, filled with temples, stone archways, and ancient carvings. For over 1,300 years, people lived here, built families here, and walked its streets. Then in 1959, the government flooded it for a hydroelectric project, erasing it from the map. Unlike most ruins, the city remains perfectly preserved. Divers exploring its depths find houses with intact doors, stone lions guarding empty streets, and carvings so well preserved they still tell stories. There's an eerie beauty to it. The city isn't destroyed, just waiting. The water keeps it untouched, frozen in time like a ghost town trapped under glass. No wind, no decay, just silence. A forgotten world is hidden beneath the surface, its secrets only known to those willing to dive deep enough. Number 13. Fort Drum, Philippines. If war had a monument to brutality, it would be Fort Drum. This wasn't a ship or a bunker. It was an entire battleship made of concrete, built to float in Manila Bay and withstand anything thrown at it. And for a while, it did. American engineers designed it in the early 1900s to be impenetrable, with walls thick enough to shrug off enemy fire. Then came World War II. When Japanese forces took control, the US military wasn't interested in a long, drawn-out battle. Instead, they poured gasoline into the ventilation shafts and lit it up. Every soldier inside burned alive. Today, the fortress still sits in the water, its walls scorched, its interior an empty tomb. Locals say you can feel the weight of history in the silence. Some even claim the ghosts of the men inside never left, lingering in the ruins, waiting for a war that ended long ago. Number 12. Abandoned subway tunnel, Ukraine. Most subway systems are filled with movement. This one has nothing but dust and shadows. Beneath the streets of Kyiv, a forgotten network of tunnels stretches into darkness, left behind by changing times and shifting Soviet priorities. Some were abandoned mid-construction, others were shut down when they became unsafe, and no one thought it was worth fixing them. Now, they sit in silence. Stalactites drip from the ceilings, rust clings to the rails, and the walls are covered in the grime of decades. Explorers who've dared to enter say it feels like stepping into a post-apocalyptic world. There are rumors, of course, whispers about hidden Soviet bunkers, secret passages, and tunnels that lead to nowhere. Some people believe they were used for espionage. Others think they hide something more. Whatever the truth is, this place is scary. Number 11. Abandoned Military Hospital, Germany. Well, most abandoned hospitals are unsettling, but Belitz Heilstätten is on another new level. Built in the late 1800s, it started as a tuberculosis sanatorium before becoming a military hospital for wounded soldiers in both world wars. Even Adolf Hitler recovered here after being injured in 1916. After World War II, the Soviets took over, using it for their troops until they pulled out in 1995. That's when the real decay set in. The old surgical theaters, long hallways, and patient rooms are still there, but now they're covered in peeling paint, vines creeping through shattered windows, and rusted hospital beds left exactly where they were decades ago. Ghost hunters swear they hear footsteps echoing through the corridors, whispers that seem to come from nowhere. Maybe it's just the wind. Maybe not. Either way, the place feels like history itself is lingering, waiting for someone to listen to the stories it never got to finish. Now, let's move to number 10. Pripyat, Chernobyl, Ukraine. Pripyat wasn't just a town. It was a symbol of Soviet progress, built to house workers of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. It had schools, parks, and a brand new amusement park set to open just days after April 26, 1986. But that day never came, and will never come forever. Sad, but true. Reactor 4 exploded, unleashing a radioactive nightmare. Families had minutes to pack their lives into a single bag before evacuating, leaving behind half-eaten meals, abandoned toys, and classrooms still set for the next lesson. What remains today is a city frozen at the exact moment life stopped. Gas masks litter school floors, rusted Ferris wheel cabins sway in the wind, and ivy creeps through shattered windows. Radiation may have faded, but the eerie silence never did. Pripyat is no longer a home, yet it refuses to be forgotten. It stands as a haunting relic of one of history's worst disasters, a place where time itself has surrendered. Number 9. Kolmanskop, Namibia. In the middle of the Namib Desert, a town once shone with the promise of wealth. Kolmanskop, founded by German settlers in the early 1900s, was built on diamonds. Fortunes were made overnight, and luxury followed. Mansions, a hospital, a grand ballroom, even an ice factory. This was no ordinary mining town. But when richer diamond fields were found elsewhere, the miners left, and the desert began reclaiming what was always hers. Sandstorms swallowed entire buildings, filling rooms knee-deep with golden dunes. Wind howls through shattered windows, and abandoned houses stand like sun-bleached skeletons against the endless desert. The most haunting thing isn't just the emptiness. It's how the sand has crept into every corner, erasing the very footprints of those who once lived here. Kolmanskop is a ghost town in the purest sense, a place where nature reminds us that no matter how rich we are, we never truly own the land. Number 8. Hovrinskaya Hospital, Russia. A hospital shaped like a biohazard symbol should have been a warning. The Hovrinskaya Hospital in Moscow was meant to be a state-of-the-art medical facility, but it never treated a single patient. Financial troubles and political red tape left it abandoned in the 1980s, an empty husk before it even had a chance to function. What followed was a descent into urban legend. Locals whisper about disappearances, cult rituals, and something unnatural lurking in its pitch-black corridors. Graffiti covers its decaying walls. Floors are littered with debris, and the whole structure teeters between collapsing and standing defiantly against time. It's been called one of the most cursed places in Russia, and the fact that multiple demolition attempts have failed only fuels the mystery. Whether it's haunted or just another victim of bureaucratic failure, one thing is clear: Hovrinskaya isn't just abandoned, it feels like it was left behind for a reason. Number 7. Kuldara, India. There are abandoned villages, and then there's Kuldara, a place so cursed that no one has lived there for 200 years. Once a prosperous settlement of the Paliwal Brahmins, it was mysteriously deserted overnight in the early 19th century. Some say the villagers fled from an oppressive ruler. Others believe they left after cursing the land so that no one else could ever call it home. Whatever the truth, no one has successfully resettled Kuldara since. Strange sounds echo through the ruins. Travelers report unseen hands brushing against them, and even the desert heat can't shake the icy feeling of being watched. The cracked remains of homes and temples stand as if frozen mid-exodus, their stories lost to time. Skeptics dismiss the legends, but for those who visit, Kuldara isn't just an abandoned village. It's a ghost story written in stone, waiting for anyone daring enough to listen. Number 6. Elda Castle, USA. A castle should be a place of legacy, not sorrow. When David T. Abercrombie, co-founder of Abercrombie & Fitch, built Elda Castle in the 1920s, it was meant to be his family's retreat, a sanctuary hidden in the woods of Ossining, New York. But tragedy followed. His daughter died in a devastating accident, and not long after, David himself passed away. Overwhelmed with grief, his wife abandoned the castle, leaving behind a dream that turned into a ruin. Now the stone walls crumble, vines creep through shattered windows, and what was once a home feels more like a mausoleum. Paranormal investigators claim to hear whispers in the empty halls, and visitors say the eerie silence weighs heavy, as if the place itself remembers the pain. Whether haunted or simply forgotten, Elda Castle stands as a testament to how even the grandest dreams can fall apart, leaving nothing but echoes of what once was. Number 5. The Last House on Holland Island, USA. Once part of a thriving island community in Chesapeake Bay, the Last House on Holland Island wasn't just a home. It was the final ghostly reminder of an entire way of life swallowed by the sea. For decades, families lived here, building schools, churches, and livelihoods on the fragile land. But the island, made of little more than mud and silt, was no match for relentless erosion. As the waters rose, residents abandoned their homes one by one until only a single weather-beaten house remained, a stubborn relic fighting against the inevitable. By the early 2000s, desperate efforts were made to save it, but nature had already decided its fate. In 2010, the house finally collapsed into the bay, vanishing beneath the waves. Today, only submerged remnants whisper of its existence, a haunting warning that rising seas spare no one. What was once a home is now just another ghost lost to time. Well, we can build things, but we can't protect. Number 4. Chateau Miranda, Belgium. Chateau Miranda, also known as the Chateau de Noisy, looked like something out of a fairy tale until the story turned dark. The Liedekerke de Beaufort family, fleeing the French Revolution, built this neo-Gothic masterpiece. But fate had other plans. Its architect died before completion, leaving behind an eerie, unfinished shell. Then, in the 1950s, the Grand Castle was repurposed as an orphanage, its once elegant halls filled with the echoes of children instead of the nobility. By 1991, after decades of neglect, it was abandoned entirely. Crumbling turrets, shattered windows, and ivy-cloaked walls transformed it into a horror movie set in real life. Urban explorers and ghost hunters flocked to its decaying corridors, drawn by chilling rumors of spirits that refused to leave. But in the end, even ghosts couldn't hold it together. By 2017, Chateau Miranda was demolished, leaving nothing but whispers of its haunting past. Number 3. Dhanushkodi, India. Once a bustling coastal town in Tamil Nadu, Dhanushkodi is now a haunting graveyard of what once was. On the night of December 22, 1964, a monstrous cyclone slammed into the town with winds over 170 miles per hour. The storm wiped everything off the map: homes, railway tracks, even an entire train carrying 115 passengers swallowed whole by the raging sea. Over 1,800 lives were lost in a matter of hours. The Indian government declared the town unfit for human habitation, and ever since, Dhanushkodi has remained eerily untouched. Crumbling churches, a half-buried railway station, and rusted train tracks are all that's left, slowly being reclaimed by shifting sands. The silence here is heavy, broken only by the relentless wind and crashing waves. Though abandoned, travelers still visit, drawn to the town's tragic beauty. It's a place where time stands still, a ghost town forever mourning the night the sea took everything. Number 2. Hashima Island, Japan. If there's ever been an island that looks straight out of a post-apocalyptic movie, it's Hashima, better known as Battleship Island. Once a booming coal mining hub owned by Mitsubishi, it was home to more than 5,000 people, packed so tightly that it became one of the most densely populated places on Earth. Miners and their families lived stacked on top of each other in brutalist concrete apartments, their lives dictated by the hum of industry. But in the 1970s, Japan shifted to petroleum, and almost overnight, Hashima was abandoned. The buildings left to the mercy of typhoons and time, decayed into eerie skeletal ruins. For decades, no one set foot here, until urban explorers and filmmakers rediscovered its haunting beauty, even using it as a villain's lair in Skyfall. Now a UNESCO-listed site, Hashima stands as a chilling monument to Japan's industrial rise and fall, a ghost town stranded in the sea. Number 1. Monsal Sea Forts, England. Rising out of the North Sea like rusted alien war machines, the Monsal Sea Forts are some of the strangest abandoned structures in the world. Built during World War II to defend Britain's shores from Nazi air raids, these steel giants once housed soldiers who manned anti-aircraft guns, keeping watch over the endless waves. But when the war ended, the forts were abandoned, left to rust in the salty sea air. That didn't stop people from finding new uses for them. Pirate radio broadcasters took over some in the 1960s, while one even became the self-declared Principality of Sealand, an unrecognized micronation that still exists today. Despite their rusting skeletal frames, the forts refused to sink, standing defiantly against the elements. Whether seen as eerie relics or bizarre pieces of history, one thing's for sure. These strange sea towers are like something straight out of a dystopian sci-fi film. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon in the next one.